Welcome back to another video, and today I'm gonna basically do a part 2 to a video I did earlier in the week, basically reviewing the Pagenaud and Norris incident and the Askew and Ferrucci incident. So the Supercars Eseries has been awesome so far. It's round 5, it's just been completed of 10. It's been awesome. They've got all the Supercars drivers, and they've been inviting a lot of F1 drivers, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris this week, and of course Marcus Ambrose, Will Power as well, and some other kind of Supercars second division drivers. But I want to talk about the most recent event, and of course Lando Norris was invited to round 5, which was at Spa-Francorchamps, and it was chaos. It was absolute chaos, crashes everywhere. Lando didn't have the best time in the world. He could have done better, but he of course he did alright, and he pushed pretty hard. He looked a little bit unstable, but pretty good actually in the V8. I would say Verstappen, he was probably just slightly slower than Max Verstappen, to be fair, but not too much slower than Max Verstappen. But the format was qualifying, and then the 3 races at Spa. Usually they'll have 4 races, 2 at 2 different tracks, but this time they just went for the system they went for at Bathurst. 3 races, 2 sprint races, so the first race being based off the qualifying results, the second race being based off a reverse grid of the results, and then the combined points tally from the first 2 races, a starting grid for the second race, which is a longer race. It was quite interesting because it was just chaos, guys everywhere, crashes everywhere. You saw Nick Percat on his roof. You saw chaos down, through Eau Rouge. But it was good fun to watch. It was really good, and they had consistent viewers. They had pretty good viewership from just the YouTube stream. And this is where we get into the talking point. Lando was quick. He looked, as I said, a bit unstable, and what happened was a bit interesting, and people have been comparing this incident that's on screen now to what happened with Pagenaud and Norris.
Entry, more trouble here, and it's Lando again, and he's fired Pither awkwardly into the wall and has actually got himself jammed at 90 degrees to the pit lane entry.
And everyone else.
It's a tad awkward for Fabian Coulthard to get into the pit lane. He drives across the bonnet.
So Norris, he made a bit of a mistake, and he had damage, and he just narrowly missed the pit lane, and he decides, what, I'm gonna turn it around, I'm gonna have a go at getting it into the pits. He kind of does get into the pits, but he blocks the pits, and this is where it's a bit interesting, and this is where there's a difference between what happened with Pagenaud and Norris and what happened with Norris and like 5 other drivers. But the thing is, yes, he probably should have just taken the L and just drove the whole lap for the rest of the way with the damage. But it's a long lap, and if I was him, I would be a bit annoyed that I've just missed the pit lane by a few meters. And it's the thing is, Supercars is a bit more of just a chill series, but it is still competitive, and you've got to be wary that there's you've got to be still maintaining responsibility for your actions and driving responsibly. And you know, that's something we didn't see in the IndyCar series, but it was relatively decent in the Supercars series, and it has been for most of the season, apart from a few drivers. But, you know, Lando, yes, I think he's probably in the wrong here. He probably shouldn't have, you know, blocked the pit lane, but at the end of the day, again, there's no real difference, you know. There's a bit of a difference between the Pagenaud and Norris incident and what happened with Lando, and, you know, I believe he blocked the pit lane. LeBrock, Coulthard, I believe even Pizza was involved in. There's a big difference between that, because the thing was Pagenaud intentionally, you know, slowed down. He was getting lapped by Lando, who was in the lead in the IndyCar race, and he intentionally slowed down and, you know, took Lando out. And, you know, that's not fair. And the thing with Lando is he didn't intentionally do this. He didn't mean to block the pit lane. Yeah, he shouldn't have done what he did, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really intentional. It wasn't, you know, awful thing that he did. It's not like what Pagenaud and Ferrucci did, you know. He's still got a little bit of dignity. I think it's a bit of fun, and yes, it is a game, but it is still meant to be taken a bit seriously. But, you know, at the end of the day, it wasn't too serious. The Supercar series is a bit more of a fun series, and I think we move on. Here we racing next week at I believe they race at Sebring, and I don't know where they go for the first race, but they're going back to the 2-race format. I think I really like what they've done with the Eseries. It's kind of very, you know, quality. The broadcast is very good quality, as we've seen in real life, and they've carried it over to the E-Series, which I love, and it's very good stuff, and hopefully they can continue to, you know, do well with this E-Series. They've still got 5 rounds left, and when we do eventually get racing again, hopefully we get more fans watching the Supercars. Of course, you know, obviously being an Australian series, it's actually very underrated. It's such a good series and deserves a lot more credit than it gets. And, you know, in terms of racing, it's not as good as it was maybe 3 years ago, but, you know, I'd say British touring cars is probably a lot better. But, you know, it depends where you're from, really, and what you grew up watching, and I hope Supercars can continue their success. It's been really good last month or so with this A-Series, and can't wait for more. But, you know, Lando, he took responsibility for his actions, which is something Pagenaud and Ferrucci kind of did, but he's still an arsehole. But Lando took responsibility, and we move on. It's not too big of a deal, this one, because it wasn't intentional, but I think there's a lot to learn. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in 2 days' time for probably a weekly roundup of all the racing news. Not that there is any really at all, but I'll see you very shortly. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.